Hey guys! Normally when I go live we're in my kitchen, but I figured today we're not actually going to make anything. I can go outside, use this time to be outside. I'll try and find somewhere nice to sit. But let's see. Let's see if this is good. The light is weird. That's okay, pretty good. Okay, so I wanted to go through with you guys because I thought it would be really helpful. Obviously, I like to share with you all of like my awesome baked goods solutions, but I thought you guys might also like to know kind of like the process that I go through when I find like other recipes that I'm like, oh, that would be cool, but I want to make it better. I don't want to make a healthy, amazing version of this that's going to make me feel good instead of like feel terrible. So I have it organized in sections for you. So the first thing, can I see my little notes here? So amazing, right? So the first thing, when you have like a recipe for something that you like, that you want to make, obviously you're going to look at the recipe, right? And so you're trying to figure out, how do I transform this into being a recipe that's healthy, right? Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is look at the oil or the fat that they're using. Like if it's a cake or cookies or whatever, most standard recipes will call for like vegetable oil or canola oil, both of which I don't recommend, or they'll call for margarine, which is like even worse. Both of which I don't recommend, vegetable oil or canola oil, or margarine, certainly not. And so instead, you want to swap out the oils for either coconut oil, if you don't mind the flavor of coconut, excuse me, or if, by the way, say hi, tell me who you are. Tell me who you are, and what, actually, if you didn't put yet like something in specific that you want me to cover how to convert, then type it now and tell me, and I'll tell you right now. So if it's like if it calls for margarine or butter, and obviously you don't want to use margarine, but if you don't want to use butter just to keep it non-dairy, you can use coconut oil. And if you don't like the coconut flavor, you can use refined coconut oil, okay? Unrefined coconut oil tastes like coconut, but refined coconut oil does not taste like coconut and is also very healthy. It's not quite as healthy, but it's definitely still a healthy choice, and is something that I use in my home and I buy and I stand behind. So I would swap it out for that. And if it's just calling for like another vegetable oil or bland oil, you can still use either of the coconut oils. And if you, for whatever reason, don't want to, then you can use avocado oil. Avocado oil also has like kind of no flavor, and so it works really well for that. But by the way, how nice is it right now? This is like winter. Winter. I'm wearing shoes at least right now, but I don't usually. You could also, if you really felt like it, you could use like palm shortening. If any of you guys, ever see like palm shortening in the supermarket or in Whole Foods or whatever, I've actually seen it a couple of places now. That's actually a good choice. Don't be thrown off and think because it says shortening that it's actually like margarine. It's not. They're actually just putting shortening on there because they're trying to market to people who are used to buying shortening, which is usually just margarine. As far as, I don't know the difference between shortening and margarine. But as long as ingredients is just palm oil and it does not say hydrogenated palm oil, then you're good to go. So that's the number one thing, is you want to swap the bad oil for a good oil. That's your number one thing. Number two, look at how much sugar the recipe calls for. Who gave me an angry face? Someone gave me an angry face. Maybe it was a mistake. Anyways, or maybe I just was really infuriating. Anyways, okay. So you want to check the sugar content. And number one, if it's just like a regular recipe from the internet or from your cookbook, definitely just cut the amount of sugar in half immediately. Just cut it in half. If it calls for 2 cups, put 1 cup. If it calls for 4 cups, put 2 cups. That's your first thing. Number two, if instead of using plain white sugar, you can swap it for coconut sugar, that would be amazing, because it's your baby, Abigail. Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't make you mad. So if you swap out the regular white sugar for coconut sugar, it's much better. And that's because the white sugar, the only thing that's in it is just the sugar molecule, right? And so he's kissing the phone, her baby is. How cute. Okay. So with white sugar, The only molecule is the sugar molecule, and so that's why as soon as it gets into your mouth, it like immediately gets into your bloodstream because it's just that molecule, and it makes you feel really good. And then it makes you feel really bad. And sorry, I'm dropping my paper. And so, but if you're using coconut sugar, you could also use like Rapadura or Sucanat. I don't even say those because they're just like hard to find. Like I never see them. I just use coconut sugar. Would I swap it 1-to-1? The sugar? No. What I just said is, well, yeah, I would swap it 1-to-1. But if I'm using a regular recipe, I'll always just immediately cut the sugar in half. Like all regular recipes normally are calling for so much more sugar than you need, like by far. I would just like immediately snip it in half. So yeah, so I would go to the coconut sugar. If you for whatever reason are picky and you don't like coconut sugar, I would at least use like organic sugar. Because that at least won't be like genetically modified. So that's good. Or have all those pesticides because like it's sweet, right? So like the bugs like it, so they get a lot of pesticides. You could also try, like you can like try substituting like honey and maple syrup, but like that's like more complicated. If you're particular about the way things come out, like you want it to be like the way it's supposed to, then you probably won't like that because it's be like a little more wet, a little more dry. Like I'm the kind of person, like I don't care if it's like a little more wet, a little more dry, a little more dense, a little more like whatever. It doesn't make a difference to me. But just know like if you're swapping that, then like it's gonna affect it. And honey and I think maple are also a little bit sweeter than regular sugar, so the measurements are just like a little more complicated. So that's number 2. That's our second tip. Number 3 is that if it's a recipe that is like a regular flour recipe, you know, like just like a regular recipe that they're assuming that you don't, you know, care or know anything about health, and so it's calling for white sugar and white flour and whatever. Will coconut sugar work in yeast baked goods? Yes. I'm gonna say yes. I don't really know if I've never done it because I don't make anything that's complicated that makes yeast. Like I know challah or breads, but yes, it is a sugar. If you want, you can, you know, like, what do? They test it first or proof it, I think they call it. But chemically it totally should, because it might take a little longer to like bubble because again, it's not just a sugar molecule, but yeah. Okay, so now we're talking about the flour. So flour, I would try to, if you don't have any nut allergies and you're working from a regular recipe, I would like right away swap half of the flour for almond flour. And the reason why is because obviously it's not going to be gluten-free, so you don't get that card. But what you get is, again, the same way that the sugar molecules, when it's plain white sugar, like dramatically I'm on someone's lawn, they're saying hi, dramatically spikes your blood sugar. White flour also has the same thing, basically that white flour. That's why it's so addictive, right? That's why it's so good, is it basically very quickly after you digest it, after it goes into your mouth and in your body, it turns essentially into sugar. And so it also spikes your blood sugar very, very quickly. And so that's why if you at least can swap half of that for almond flour, what you're doing is you're dramatically lowering the glycemic index without really affecting like the flavor or the texture. Again, maybe, or I'm sure, like a fancy French pastry chef would be like horrified at what I'm saying. But I can tell you, like, I do this all the time and no one notices. Everyone's happy with it. And I would also try to maybe swap in like the whole wheat for the regular white wheat. You can't do that so simply, and honestly I don't really bother. I normally will just use like white whole wheat and that works fine. But as you guys probably have noticed, I don't generally work with like regular wheat flours anyways, because in my family we all do better with less gluten, except for one of my kids. But regardless, I'm always trying to like up for every bite of everything I make. I'm always trying to make it as nutritious as possible. And so for me, you know, there's very little nutrition in even like white whole wheat. And so if I can make a cookie, an amazing chocolate chip cookie, which you know they are amazing if you've made them, the ones that we've made in here, if I can make that with almond flour, I'd rather do that, because basically then my family were just like eating a bunch of almonds. Almonds and eggs and coconut oil, like all good food, and like a little coconut sugar and chocolate chips. Okay, like it's fine. But the way that it works together is that all of those good fats and proteins together help to keep our blood sugar stable, and the sugar is much less, so the glycemic index doesn't affect us the same way. We don't go like happy and then crazy. We just like, this is so good. So there you go with that. If you want to make something based off of like an almond flour, I would honestly just like Google a paleo recipe. Just be like, hey, paleo blah blah blah, or just say almond flour blah blah blah, and you should find a recipe. And I'm sorry if you find a hard one. You should just check my blog first. Just check in the Facebook group in here and type in, because we've been doing the group for almost a full year. I've been live pretty much every single week. I think I took off like one time when my kids were really sick, and one time after my grandfather Leva Shalom passed, and that's about it. So we have a lot of recipes in here. They're also all up on my blog, which is supersimplenutrition.com/blog. But again, if you're just on Facebook, you could just type in like the little search button and type in pancakes, muffins, chocolate chip cookies, or whatever, and you'll see everything pop up. But you can't just take a regular recipe and swap it for almond flour. Because if it doesn't, basically the difference is that with regular flour has gluten in it, and the gluten is like the binding agent that makes everything stick together. So if you then just swap it for buckwheat flour, which is gluten-free, or almond flour, which is obviously gluten-free, even though it's not a grain, it's a nut, it doesn't work the same way. That being said, if you have your heart set on something and you just need to find a gluten-free version, honestly, I would just get like one of those gluten-free mixes. Like Trader Joe's carries it, Whole Foods carry it, like every like health nut food store carries it. I don't have my kids with me, but when I see a big truck, I'm like, ooh, a big truck, and I like feel like I should point it out to you guys, like there's a big truck. Anyways, the exhaust. Okay, that's what you get for living in LA. So I would just use one of the mixes, because when you get the gluten-free mix, they will add in a bunch of things so that it will work. Then you can swap it, you know what I'm saying? Because they'll add in, it'll be like the base of it is usually like rice flour or whatever, and then they'll add in like tapioca starch. I don't even know what they add in, but it works. And so for the brownies, I had some people asking about brownies. I have in here a really awesome brownies recipe that I used making with buckwheat flour one time, and the other time I did like the gluten-free mix. They both came out like amazing. One time when I tried to make a brownies recipe with you guys with almond flour, it came out really good, but it kind of just came out like chocolate cake, so I renamed it on the blog like chocolate cake instead of brownies, because it was like really good but not super brownie-ish. Okay, I want to just a couple more things I want to tell you. Also, whenever possible, if I'm making something baked good, which I'm assuming means it's sweet, right, is I'll try and just put cinnamon in anywhere I can. Okay, Shawnee, is it possible to cook baking healthy without using bananas or coconut anything? Yes. Okay, you can totally leave out bananas. Like, what uses bananas? I mean, I guess like banana bread, or like I put it in my pancakes, but you could leave it out of the pancakes. Yes, if you don't want to use coconut, you could use, I mentioned in the beginning, if you watch in the beginning, you'll see you can use like palm oil is also a good oil instead of margarine, and you can also use avocado oil, which won't work like margarine, like it doesn't get hard, but it is tasteless, so you don't have to use like vegetable oil or some other crap. And bananas you can leave out. One thing I would say, cinnamon I want to tell you. Cinnamon is not only delicious, it's also, as far as herbs go, it also helps keep your blood sugar stable. So it's not nearly as possible as adding in the good fats, but it is definitely like good. So I'm like, in my, obviously I'm known for it, but whatever. Now I'm known for it. Like I always just kind of like put cinnamon in baked goods anywhere that I think they can pull it off. Like even like in chocolate chip cookies, like I won't put a bunch because that'll be weird, but I just like put a little, just to kind of like, again, just like help on that angle. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys, is that, One of the things I do not recommend, and I see people posting about this like all the time, not in my group, but like in other food groups, is they're like, oh, I made these like so healthy muffins and I swapped out the oil for applesauce. And I'm just like, on swapping out oil for applesauce, right? Because again, what is the biggest health concern with baked goods? Is they're all very high glycemic. They're very high in sugar and carbs, and they spike your blood sugar. In addition to being usually like nutritionally empty, they're also detrimental because they have such a high glycemic index. So the problem is, if you swap out oil and you put in applesauce, number one, you're assuming that oil is bad. Only bad oil is bad. Good oil is very good for you. It's not a necessary, it's not just a necessary evil. It is in fact something that we need, that our body needs to thrive. Our brain is made from good quality fats. Our hormones are made from good quality fats. Our amino acids in our brain that make us have good positive feelings are made from good quality fats. So that's not something that we're trying to get rid of. We just want to make sure we're using good stuff. So don't use applesauce, because now all you've done is added more sugar, right? Like, yay, more sugar, not what we're looking for. So that's that thing. Number 5, someone asked about oatmeal raisin cookies, which I'm glad they asked. I wouldn't have thought of that because like it's not a big thing in my house. But oatmeal raisin cookies. So number 1, first of all, watch out for oatmeal raisin, because oats for a lot of people are constipating and like inflammatory. my sister-in-law's messaging me. But a lot of times if a person like eats a bunch of oats and then they get a stomach ache, they never think it was the oats, because oats are so healthy. So oats, like on paper, are very healthy. And for some people they do great on them, but for a lot of people they don't. And especially if you're eating them raw or just like baked in a cookie, instead of like, when I make oatmeal in my house, like I soak it for 24 hours first and then I cook it on the stovetop slowly. So that's very, very different. You digest it and break it down totally differently than if you're just like, putting it raw, whatever, however you have it, like from the box in a cookie. So just heads up for that. So what I would do is you follow the regular recipe to make your oatmeal raisin cookie. Then I would do white whole wheat for half the flour it calls for. And again, like my trick from earlier, the other half of the flour I would use almond flour. And again, we're doing that just because we're trying to increase the vitamins, the minerals, but most importantly from a glycemic index, we're trying to increase the amount of good quality fats and proteins, because the good quality fats and proteins are like the antithesis to the sugar that like spikes your blood sugar, right? I can't hold the phone and show you. I want to do like a scale of like one side like this and on the other side like that. So that's like kind of how you do the balance beam, right? So that's what I would do. And then for the sugar, I would put half the sugar that it calls for, and I would use coconut sugar. And that's how I would do the oatmeal raisin cookie. Oh yeah, and of course I would use a good oil, right? I would use either coconut oil or refined coconut oil or palm oil. And if you do that, it will be really, really good. And it won't be, I think the problem is most people are like, oh, they try and make it healthy. It means they take out the oil and then they just like, and then it's just like, it's like crumbly and not like yummy. And also then it's like even makes you more crazy because it has just like a bunch of sugar in it. So there you go. I had a couple more tips on the back. Oh, right. Okay. And if you guys have any more questions or requests for things you want me to cover, speak now. When something calls for milk, if you're a family or a person that does well on milk, that's fine. But if you don't, or if you just want to keep it non-dairy, I would swap it for either almond milk or coconut milk or even coconut cream, again, because I'm leaning towards wanting to get more of those good quality fats in there, because that's what keeps our body even keel, right? And it's also nutritious. Like coconut oil is like has a lot of medium chain fatty acids, and that's the kind of fatty acids that give us quick energy and make us feel satiated and boost our immune system and boost our metabolism. It has a lot going for it. It's not something we're trying to get away from. If you're using those milks, I would try to watch out for carrageenan. Like, don't make yourself crazy about this, but carrageenan really upsets a lot of people's stomach. A lot of times, anyone who knows anything about it, they're like, oh, I thought it was fine because it's made from seaweed, and seaweed is natural, and like that's true, but seaweed has a lot of very long chain sugars that are really difficult to break down, kind of similar to beans, and how a lot of people can't do that, right? So yeah, so with the you just want to try and avoid the carrageenan. And the last thing, unless you guys ask something else, and I have another surprise I want to tell you, I'm really excited about it, is that someone's like, what about mint chip ice cream? It's not exactly a baked good, but I figure I'll answer while I'm on. Is that it's not going to taste like regular mint chip ice cream, but if I were to be like, if you were at my house and you're like, ooh, can we make like some kind of mint chip ice cream? I'd be like, let me see what I can do. Oh, look, my husband's here, walking to my house to get our car to go pick up my son, because I'm not.
West side.
I would probably do like frozen bananas, coconut cream, and or cream if you have good quality real cream, but I wouldn't use ultra pasteurized cream, because like when they ultra pasteurize it, it's so intense on the, like the dairy on the molecules, that it like really destroys them and like makes problems in people's stomach later. But like a super healthy version of like mint chip ice cream, which I put in quotes because like no one's gonna like have the wool pull over their eyes, but it will taste good, right? I would do bananas, either coconut cream or regular cream. I probably maybe even put in fresh mint leaves to make it green. I haven't done this before. I'm like thinking out loud. But I would get also mint like extract. They make that the same way that you can get like vanilla extract. I would do mint extract, and I would blend it all up, and then I throw in raw cacao nibs. Again, you could totally make this like way more unhealthy and more like a regular ice cream by adding more. You could add maple syrup to it. You could use chocolate chips instead of cacao nibs. But if you're just looking for like a really healthy version of it to see if it like can match your craving for it, that would probably do the trick, because it's like creamy and sweet from the bananas and minty, and the cocoa and the raw cacao nibs. Like, you could also do like a mixture. Like sometimes when I make chocolate chip cookies, I'll put in like half chocolate chips, half cacao nibs, and then like it has like that sweet kick, but it's also just has like that really cocoa-y flavor without all the sugar from so many chocolate chips. So that's what I wanted to tell you about how to do the baked goods. And I'm really excited to tell you guys that I don't know if you saw, I posted a testimonial earlier this morning, and a lot of people, the truth is not so many people commented, but a few people commented, but a lot of people private messaged me and were like, oh my gosh, like please, like can you, like how do you do that? How do you use food as medicine? Like what are you doing? Right? And I realized it's a question that I get a lot, is like, how does this actually work? Like why, like how do you do that, and can you teach me? Can I figure this out myself? And so it got my wheels turning that I'm thinking of I want to create like a free training for you guys where I teach you guys like how food as medicine works and how you can use it for yourself, which I think is really cool. And so if that's exciting to you and that sounds interesting to you, like I don't know how many of you are like so familiar with my work, but essentially what I do is I create customized nutrition plans based on people's symptoms, based on what they're dealing with. Because when you share with me your symptoms, I can see, right? So if your concern is that you have PMS really terrible, you have to miss work 3 days a week, 3 times a month, I mean, whatever, because of it, right? 3 days. So obviously I care about that, but I also want to know, like, how's your sleep? How's your mood? How's your energy? How's your skin? How's your hair? How's, everything essentially. And when I look at all those things together, I can see what your nutritional deficiencies are and what organs are struggling. And then from that, I create for you your personalized, customized nutrition plan to address all of those issues. And by doing that, your body's able to come back into health. So I think it's super fascinating, and apparently a lot of people do too. And so I'm thinking about offering you guys like a free class, training, whatever, on how to do that, so that you can kind of start to figure that out for yourself, so that you can, you know, when you have symptoms, you can be like, oh, I know what this means. This means my body is deficient in this, and I know which foods I need to incorporate into my life, into my meal plans, so that I feel better. Instead of just being like, why is this happening? Right? It's like, just start like, oh, I'll juice some kale and like throw spaghetti at the wall and see like what sticks to make you feel better. not the most strategic. And as you know, I'm a big fan of strategy because I'm lazy and I don't want to try 1,000 things. I want to just have it work the first time. So if that's appealing to you, comment below, be like, yes, I'm interested, or say whatever you want that lets me know you're interested, because that is really cool, and I'll start working on it. I'm even thinking maybe like I'm gonna make you guys like maybe like a little survey if you want, so you can tell me specifically what you want, and then I can just like create it according to exactly what you want instead of like what I think you want. So that's what I had for you today. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, woo, exciting. New, what is it? A new leaf? Turning over a new leaf? I feel like I'm turning over a new leaf. Free training sounds awesome. Yay, I'm so glad. Yay. Okay, I will give you. You're making me happy. Okay. And yeah, okay, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. So I hope this is super helpful. And it's in here and it's up on the blog, so it'll be up on the blog soon. I have to upload it after it finishes. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.